Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories. Hi, Auntie. Hi. Oh, it says sing. Greetings from the UK. Get a cuppa. I know you like a long one. We do. So I'll begin with some background. Also, I'm using names in this story because it's relevant to the main part of the story. I've always been in tune with different planes, lots of odd occurrences in my life, but this one is my favorite. So I'll start by painting a quick picture. When I was 4 or 5, my family uprooted from England and moved to a little village in rural Wales. Our house is an old schoolhouse, meaning it's attached to my 200-year-old primary school. There's a now bricked up doorway that would allow access to both buildings back when the headmaster lived in my house in the 1800s. That's old, man. We still have the old school bells and coat racks that would be hundreds of years old. That's actually really cool. A lot of history with this house, but nothing ever felt sinister. Growing up here, I'd regularly see people about the house. An old lady used to fold the towels on the shelf in the hallway opposite my bedroom. A girl used to wander around our garden picking apples, and there's a hidey hole in the loft that another little girl would sit in. A little girl in a hidey hole? No, thank you. Mind you, there's a whole other story about that hidey hole, which is creepy. I knew it was creepy. I knew they weren't alive, but they never really bothered me. Anyway, I moved back to England around 2007 to start university. Fast forward to 2013, and a year after having my first baby girl, Holly, the relationship broke down and I moved back to my family home in Wales with her to save up for a new house to start again in England. Holly was always in tune with the people in the house. She was almost 2 at the time and would talk about the angels on the beach that would ask her to bury white stones in the sand to protect them. One day, she was looking out the window into the garden and said, "Look, Mama, there's a baby digging underneath a rainbow." Just slipping a trigger warning in here for infant loss. I couldn't see anything, but she insisted and kept looking out and telling me about it. Later that day, my dad's friend called Rainbow, it's rural and full of hippies, hence the out there name, phoned to tell him that his little girl had passed the night before. Might have been no connection at all, but it is a strange coincidence. She'd do a lot of things like this during our time living there. Anyway, by December 2013, Holly was now just 2 and we'd saved enough money and found a lovely little Victorian terrace house back in the city I'd moved from in England. It was perfect, just me and my little girl in our own home, ready for a new adventure. She had the front bedroom looking out into the street and I had the back bedroom with the attic hatch in it. Her bedroom was always cold, even with the heating on full blast. After a few weeks living there, she started telling me about the Bernie face man that would talk to her in her bedroom. She'd say, "He looks scary. He has a dirty bandage on his head that covers his eye and burns on his face, but he says he just wants to be friends. He's not from here. He came from the hospital, but he needs a friend." I didn't pick up good energy around it at all, so I told her she wasn't to speak to him anymore. I'm pretty sure she did because she eventually stopped talking about him. Not long after moving in, I met my now partner, William. He had a little girl, Seren, exactly the same age, and our 2 girls became instant inseparable sisters. They told everyone they were twins, only 3 weeks between birthdays, and would do weird twin stuff all the time. They would say sentences at the same time, and when Will would get home from dropping Seren back to her mom's, Holly would start asking him things like, "Why didn't you tell me about Seren's wet shoes? She told you when you were on the train to tell me and you haven't." Or she'd relay conversations Will and Seren had on the journey that she couldn't possibly know about as she was at home with me while they were traveling. We had a relatively good relationship with Seren's mom, Emma, which was great for the girls to see, so there was good vibes seen by them during pickups and drop-offs. Fast forward to 2015 and I fell pregnant. We decided to switch the bedrooms with the girls due to needing more space for a double bed and a cot. It's worth pointing out that at this point that the front bedroom was still always cold. Even in the middle of summer, always freezing. We joke about it and say at least we had somewhere to cool down when the great British weather would hit the high 20s, but when we swapped rooms, it was never cold again. Bam! Always warm. Just like that. Fast forward to the baby being born, a boy, Ellis. Once he turned 2, he moved out of his cot in our room and into the back bedroom with the 2 girls. That's when things started up again. By this point, Holly and Seren were much older, and Holly hadn't talked about the Bernie face man in years, and neither had we. Ellis started talking about the pirate who would come down from the attic at night. Remember the hatch in the back bedroom? He said he had twisted cheeks and didn't wear a captain's hat, but a dirty bandana style one that covered his eye. Sound familiar? He never spoke to Ellis. He just used to stand and stare at him. That is creepier. I once Googled an image of a burnt face. Yes, I know how messed up that sounds, and zoomed in so that Ellis couldn't see that it was someone's face. He could just see the way the burns looked, and he said that that's what the pirate's cheeks looked like, all twisted and red. Around this time, Ellis would also talk about his old life before he was born, where he had a brother called Charlie. He would also talk and play with Ethel, an old lady, and Lily, apparently not old, but old like mama. Thanks, kid. I was early 30s at the time. And a boy named Frederick that visited our house too. I'd walk into the front room and be told, "Don't sit there, you'll sit on Ethel." Or he'd say that when me and Will would come into a room, her and Lily would go away to their house. He'd point to a house over the road and not play anymore. So, because he was so interested in these people being in the house, we did a little research. We looked into the history of the house, families that lived there, and other houses on the street. Are you ready for this? Here is what we found. There was a couple called William, same as my other half, and Sarah, who fell in love against her family's wishes. She came from a rich land in the city, and he was a struggling artist. They married anyway. Strangely, William's last name was Skinner, but they used Amflet, Sarah's last name. This may have been down to her wealth, but who knows. They had 5 children: Henry, Ella, Frederick, William, Emma, Sarah's mom's name, and Ella. They lived on a street called the Tithing. This is where I had my first flat when I moved here in 2007. Sadly, William, the father, died, and Emma moved into this house that we live in as a single mother. That's what me and Holly did. As the children grew up, one of the sons married Ethel, a girl that lived across the street from him. Next door to us, let me just point out here too that in these old Victorian houses, the attics all used to join. You could walk across into other people's lofts until fire regulations changed and they were all bricked up. Anyway, next door lived a man named Charlie. Same name as Ellis's old family brother, and also the name Holly would have been called had she been a boy. Charlie was a gas engineer and died when a gas explosion went off in his face. He had a daughter called Lily, and that's that. Everything my kids have talked about has been looked into and backed up. They don't talk about it much anymore. Sometimes it will come up and Ellis will get a bit weird about it. I've got photos of the censuses with all the names and addresses on which I'll add as an attachment just for fun. These people have nothing to do with me or my family. They are just people that lived in and around our current house. We do have odd little things that still happen, like the peeker, a figure that will pop its head around the door into the living room sometimes, but I usually just ask them to stop and they go away for a while. And I think that's about it. What do you think? Sorry for such a long one. I have so many other tales to tell, but this is my favorite. Lots of love. Okay, this top one is the census of Sarah and children at our current house, 39. The house next door, 38. Usually streets in the UK go up alternating numbers. Our street is weird and goes up in numerical order. So the house next door, 38, shows Charles, Charlie, and Lily, his daughter. Ethel living at number 19, the house opposite from us. And here is more information about Ethel. This is also crazy, and I love that you have all of the receipts to back it up, like all the censuses and everything to back it up. I love when people actually look into the history of the houses or the land and they like figure some stuff out and make some connections. It makes it so much more cool. I also think it's so cool that the pirate or the Bernie man was around before your son was born, but your son is the one that remembered the past lives and all of the people and stuff right around you, which is crazy that it was all still right around you. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Let me know what you guys think in the comments here, and what do you think the chill factor was for this story. I'm Auntie Matrix, and if you like stories like these, make sure that you follow me, and you can send me yours to this email address right here if you like. We believe you.